Are you sure we should be leaving like this? Tobias asked, the young soldier's voice tinged with worry. Still dressed in the trappings of the Marcian army, he had chosen to follow his friend Vandred away from the nearby fortress. Vandred's tales of epic heroes and bountiful riches temporarily overriding his common sense. Now that he was following a woodland trail away from his conscripted service, he started having second thoughts. If we're caught, we'll be deserters, he continued. I don't want to be sent to prison. Vandred, I've never committed a crime in my life. Vandred rolled his eyes. Dressed in similar military garb, he walked in front of Tobias, his posture exuding an almost arrogant confidence. A sharp contrast to Tobias's hunched shoulders and worried grimace. Tobias, I've said it before. The army life isn't for us. Stick with me and we'll blaze our own path. Our story will be written in the stars, Vandred said smoothly, his practiced voice already aimed at calming the reluctant Tobias. A technique he had already used so many times it was starting to get irritating. Tobias, Vandred thought to himself, was going to be a problem. The idea of having a comedic companion seemed a good idea at the time. All the best stories had them. But he was becoming more trouble than he was worth. Besides his constant whining, he might simply give himself up at the first sign of trouble. No, Tobias had to go. Although whether that meant leaving him in the next town or a more permanent solution, Vandred hadn't decided yet. It was some time later, as they were crossing a stone bridge, that Tobias once again decided to speak. We should go back, Tobias said simply, an uncommon amount of steel in his words, as if he finally made a decision. Vandred sighed heavily, the firmness in Tobias's voice making him realize that he couldn't wait till the next town. It was time to take care of Tobias now. As Vandred put on his best smile and slowly moved his hand towards the knife on his belt, they were both startled by a loud, wet smack a few feet in front of them. Looking ahead, they saw the sound came from a large, slimy green hand grasping the outer railing. A few seconds later, a massive, lumpy, bipedal creature lifted itself from the river below and dumped itself in the middle of their path. Its ugly green body tense and its large eyes looking at them with menace. Although neither of them had ever seen one before, both young men recognized a Troggoth when they saw one. The tales of these terrible beasts used to scare unruly children for generations. The creature was unmoving, the only noise it made being its heavy breathing and the tightening of its hand around its mace. It seemed to be waiting for a reaction from the soldiers, although what action it expected, they could only guess. Vandred, that's a Troggoth, Tobias squeaked unnecessarily, terror making his voice barely a whisper. Vandred had a different reaction. Tobias, this is perfect, Vandred said, a mad smile on his lips. Old tales from his childhood were playing themselves in his mind. It's a Troggoth, and this is a bridge. You remember the stories? We just have to answer a riddle and bind it to our service. Don't tell me you're afraid of a little riddle. Tobias said skeptically, his expression changing from pure fear to pure disbelief, as if the ridiculousness of Vandred's words somehow made him forget the brutal beast in front of him. Vandred, I'm not afraid of a riddle. I'm afraid of the Troggoth. Vandred didn't seem to hear. With a swagger in his step, he boldly walked towards the Troggoth. When he was close enough to smell the reek of dead flesh and noxious gases that seemed to flow from the creature like a wave, he stopped and spoke. Troggoth, he said theatrically, as if remembering a line from a play. I am Vandred, future warrior, king, and conqueror. Ask your riddle, so I may solve it and bind you to my service. The Troggoth tilted its head, although whether it was amused or simply confused, its face showed no sign. After a few seconds, it opened its maw. Vandred expected a riddle. Instead, he received an almost impossible amount of vomit aimed directly at his face. Vandred was shocked for about a tenth of a second before the Troggoth's gastric acids began its work, melting flesh from bone at a horrifying speed. So powerful was the acid that he couldn't even scream, his attempt stopped by the bile entering his mouth, consuming his throat and lungs in short order. In less than a minute, Vandred was turned into an unrecognizable pile of flesh, and, as the former soldier with dreams of grandeur finally stopped moving, The Troggoth slowly moved its eyes up towards Tobias. 5 minutes later, Tobias was sprinting towards the fortress. In between thoughts of pure terror, he considered his options. In the best case, he could return with none the wiser, returning to his unit while telling those who asked he had no idea where Vandred could have gone. The worst case was him being sent to prison. Bad as that was, it would be much more preferable to whatever awaited beyond the spewing mouth of a disgusting Troggoth. In the dark corners of the realms, where the primordial slime that burst from the bowels of the earth festers, spawned the Troggoths. Stupid and violent creatures of Gorka Morka, they either hide in wait looking for victims, or mindlessly follow armies of Uroks or Ulgors in anticipation of future combat. Armies that would never waste the opportunity to use such creatures, as they are notoriously hard to kill, their flesh constantly regenerating even in the middle of battle. Not to mention the corrosive juices that are created in its stomach, which can spew at its enemies in a torrent of acid and bile. There are many species of Troggoths that infest the realms, but there are 3 that are the most well known. The most common are the sour-breathed Troggoths, usually seen around bridges or old ruins. They have the almost unbelievable ability to ignore certain wounds, their idiocy preventing them from even knowing they should be dead. The next are the fell-water Troggoths. Found in the fens and swamps of the realms, they exude a vile stench that causes any creature to stumble. Finally are the rock-gut Troggoths, spawned in the rocky depths of the earth. As if crafted from the very stones, their stony hide somehow makes them resistant to hostile magic, the magical energy finding it hard to get a grip on the earth-like flesh of the creatures. To be a Troggoth is to be a bestial servant of Gorka Morka, to defeat your enemies with extreme violence and even more extreme stupidity. Hey guys, this is Arvandus, and I want to say I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like these short stories / descriptions of various races in Age of Sigmar, please like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll keep doing it. Not only Age of Sigmar, perhaps other games that I have interest in. Anyway, thanks for listening, and see you next time.